It's no secret that most millionaires reach that status from consistent investing in a boring index fund like the total US stock market or the S&P 500. But the problem with that model is that it takes so much time. It works, but on average, millionaires reach this status around age 60. What about if you're 40 and you want to retire much earlier? This video will give you the info needed to be able to retire in 5 years if that's your goal. My name is Nolan Govea. My students call me Professor G, and I made this channel to make investing simplified. So let's simplify this idea of retiring early so that you have a plan and so that you can go after that goal. And if you're serious about wanting to retire early or have a specific financial goal, you should definitely consider joining our exclusive Patreon group of like-minded individuals who all want to help each other get there faster. We meet on a live Zoom twice per month, and I'm available through DM for any specific questions or thoughts so we can get you to your goals much faster. It's only $20 per month, so check the link down in my description and I'll see you there. Now, the first step to being able to retire early is to figure out what you actually want. Do you want to be retired in the sense that literally you stop working and making an income altogether? Do you want to still work, but maybe do so in a more fulfilling role, such as with a nonprofit or church, but still make a little bit of money, just dramatically less? What will your lifestyle look like in this retirement? Will your living expenses be the same as now? Do you want to travel? All of this is so important for you to understand, because without knowing the answer here, it would be like signing up for a race and training for that race, but not knowing how far you actually have to run. I've trained for many races and many competitions, and training for a 1-mile race versus a 26-mile race is a much different pace. If I'm working on running a 6-minute mile because I think it's only going to be 1 or 2 miles long, and it ends up being a marathon, I'm going to gas out in the first couple miles, and then the rest of that race is going to be terrible. And the same thing happens to people in retirement. So figuring out how much money you're going to actually need is very important. The best way to do that is going to be to take what you think your yearly expenses will be during that retirement time and then multiply that number by 25. Expenses would include things like mortgage or rent, insurance, vehicle costs, groceries, any other bills, and then any other lifestyle things like travel or experience. Let's say that you think that that is going to be around $5,000 per month. That's $60,000 per year, so 60,000 times 25 equals $1.5 million. The reason why we multiply by 25 does not mean that it's only going to last you 25 years, so don't worry about that. It comes from the 4% rule, which says that one should be good to sell 4% of one's investments each year forever to live off that money forever. Obviously, $1.5 million is a lot of money, and it's kind of tough to get to that number very, very quickly. So the first way that you'll be able to retire earlier is if you can bring down your living expenses during that retirement age. Many will do this by planning to live in a place that's much, much cheaper, somewhere like Portugal or Puerto Rico. Also, having a home paid off or major expenses deleted will dramatically bring down your living expenses at that time. For example, if you only needed $2,000 per month, that's $24,000 per year, or only $600,000 needed to retire. For me, I'm pretty sure that I'll never actually retire, at least in the traditional sense. I don't want to completely stop working and just sit on a beach all day. Even though that's nice for a couple weeks, I wouldn't want to do that for the rest of my life. I just want to get to a point where I get to decide when and where and how I'm going to work, and that I never have to rely on any one income stream. This will let me be able to do the things that truly matter to me, and specifically for me, that's just being able to help people in some way. So if you thought about specifically what you want from that first question before, and you figured that you want something like a hybrid, and you want to work, but maybe part-time or for dramatically less money, you need to figure that in, because if you're used to bringing in $5,000 per month, and now you'll bring in $3,000 per month, then you'd only need to supplement that last $2,000, which would just require $600,000 invested to get you to the point like outlined before. So now that we understand that we need an end goal number, how do we reach that number faster? There's 3 main ways. Number 1, you need to strike it rich. This is kind of a joke, but kind of serious. You've probably heard of the person that wins the lottery or invests in some penny stock and their investment goes up 500 times overnight. So their $1,000 investment turned into $500,000 by the next day. So the first way to possibly get there faster is to allocate a very small portion of your portfolio into something higher risk but should be higher reward. Please don't just chance it, and do some ample research and figure out something that seems a little bit crazy but also makes some sense. assets. For me, that's crypto, and I have a very small portion of my portfolio in specifically Bitcoin. Number 2 is going to be to consider to invest in something that doesn't necessarily get you to that goal number, but that should actually help you get to the actual goal itself by producing an income forever. For example, buying a rental property. Right now that may seem like going the opposite way because you're gonna have to take some of that money that you're putting towards that end goal number and put that into the investment. So you have to take some money away. But if you understand that you get to buy a $500,000 asset with only $100,000 of your own money, that's very powerful. Real estate in California, where I live, generally appreciates at 6.7%, so it will grow in value while you have renters pay a rent that generally exceeds the mortgage and will definitely be cash flowing in 5 years. So the longer you have the property, the more cash flow monthly, the more total equity in the home. So if you ever wanted to sell that home and then just take that money or that profit and throw that into your investing account, you totally could. And then also owning this rental property brings down your total tax liability, so it makes it seem like you're making even more money every single month. And that cuts down on your total monthly expenses from before. The last way to hit that retirement faster is specifically for those of you that don't want to do number 1, you don't want to do something high risk, and you don't want to do number 2 because you don't want to take on the headaches of being a landlord. This one is going to be the option that works, but nobody ever listens to. For this option, you need to sell out 100% and be more disciplined than anyone else. If your goal is to retire in 5 years, you need to sacrifice for these next 5 years to be able to live like no one else will be able to live.
So you got to live like no one else, so that later you can live and give like no one else.
It all comes down to the fact that you basically need to be investing more, substantially more, than you're investing right now. To do that, you need to cut down on your expenses in a crazy way. We aren't talking about cutting out one Starbucks drink every week. We're talking about cutting down your entire rent payment. So maybe you need to go live with your parents or with some friends. Maybe you need to sell your vehicle and just walk or bike places. And while cutting out a massive expense, you need to also bring up your income. So you need to go and get a second job, or you need to start a side hustle, something where we are dramatically bringing in more money. Then you need to be disciplined to go ahead and take all of that money and throw it into a great ETF, something like VTI or VOO. If you were able to invest $5,000 every month into an ETF that tracks the S&P 500 and has a historic average rate of return of 10% for 5 years, you'd be at $375,000. If you didn't add another dollar to that, 10 years after that, you'd be at almost $1 million. My favorite index fund is the S&P 500, and in this video I go over my prediction of the price that it'll be at in 2030. Watch this video now and let's get you to your financial goal fast.